This isn't the end of the conversation. We'll follow up. But this is the 4 minutes is to give the group a sense of what you're thinking. And then eventually, if other people want to opt into what you're proposing, you can do that. These are not formal forever groups. But let's get a sense of what might happen next. So I'll set a timer for 4 minutes. I'll give you a 1-minute warning. When I hand it to you, just let me know what your topic is and tell us who was in your group and what you discussed.
It was Fosha, Nawal, and me, Paula. We talked about addressing the relationship between mental health and substance use. And first of all, we think it's a very complicated issue, right? We're not actually addressing both. We believe that the healthcare systems are mainly being reactive to this and acting more on crises and focusing on prevention. We also talked about we need to have this conversation about mental health and substance use, talk at every level. So it start when the individual is in kindergarten or even younger, up to seniors. We need to create healthier individuals, starting young. And we also talked about this being a very individualistic society, so we need more of a collective effort, normalizing self-care, and not only talking about taking care of our bodies, but taking care of a person as a whole, as an integral part of who we are and who we need to be. We talked a lot about the issue of not having representations in our healthcare system, so we need to diversify the healthcare workforce. There is a lot of this belief here as a Western world with Western standards, and we don't take into consideration the specific nuances of every community, that we act as a community and not as just an individual. We need to also train our leaders, religious leaders and community leaders, so they can provide some additional support that the healthcare systems are not providing. We also talked about the issues with access to services, access to informed services, and how this issue is not an isolated issue, but we have to work to address both mental health and chemical use, and we see that unfortunately in many healthcare systems, we fill out that little test about how we're feeling or how we have been feeling for the last 2 weeks or a month, and if there is just one check or two checks or not enough points, then that goes to the file and is not addressed, although that can be a symptom of somebody experiencing some things. And also that for some cultures are very more private and they don't talk about mental health or substance use that openly as other cultures do. And that's where we need to work with a more diverse workforce to understand the particular ideas and cultural norms of the different cultures.
Hey everybody, it was me and Abdul Qadir. We did enhanced community connectedness. I'm not going to take 4 minutes, so I'm just going to list off the things that we came up with. So showing up in the community to build relationships is primary, tabling at community events. That could look like participating in an interview for radio, social media, flyers, news. But then also honoring people's time, providing them incentives or food for stopping by or listening to what we have to say. And then also understanding others' cultures. So it kind of ties into you saying leaders, but we kind of called it trusted messengers. So having people from different communities being able to show up in their spaces and talk about the things that we're talking about here. And I think that ties into all the individuals here at the coalition because we all have different communities that we can represent. And then another thing is creating safe spaces. So encouraging people to connect with individuals in their community. I could talk about, you want to talk about that point?
Safe space is in communities like they fear retaliation or like having, connecting or getting relationship with the government entity is have some kind of anxiety. So making them to feel home, that there's no retaliation, there's no judgment, there's no, it's. Then safe space can also be a space where community themselves can talk their needs, their priorities. They feel empowered, they feel heard, they feel connected. That's what I will add. I can tell a personal story. One of the days I'm out in the community, and I had that I'm struggling with the mic. Yeah, but what I mean is like this, like that. Okay, I'll try my best. One of the sad stories I had is that in one of the community I've been working with, somebody said over the last few months, 3 people were found dead in their apartments. What are we missing there? That's the question. Why there's no one around them to check? Where's the social worker? Where's everyone? Where's the landlord? That tells me like we're missing belonging. People are not. We're neighbors, but we're only neighbors by physically, not. So I think a lot of things need to be done. Thank you.
And I think that can tie into being a trusted messenger. So having the tools to talk to the people in our community and feeling safer, having the tools so that, if we don't feel safe, what can we do to make ourselves feel more comfortable to talk to the people around us and help them feel more supported?
So we had integrate holistic and cultural approaches, and we basically talked about trying to figure out a way to make forms generalized across the state and not just have every community community place with different information. If we have all the same information statewide, it probably would be able to help a little bit better, and have cultural differences and holistic beliefs somewhere in these applications, because if we're already filling out tons and tons of paperwork for each doctor visit, why not add another sheet of paper talking about your cultural differences so that someone can respect your differences? If you don't know, then how will we expect the doctors to know if we don't tell them what it is that we are looking for? Having more doctors or finding ways to find doctors that are within our holistic and cultural beliefs. Being able to speak to someone from your own background makes a difference. And then we also talked about finding individuals that have or had addictions to assist with other addicts, instead of us trying to be the person without any experience on addiction ourselves, other than what we've been told or what we've learned in school. We can never experience what an addict has been through.
Okay, so in our group, we talked about alleviating loneliness and cultivating belonging. And initially, we started talking about having more community events, but then we took a step back because, you can have all the events you want, but if people don't feel comfortable to come and talk about where they're hurting or what is going on in their homes, then it doesn't really make you feel any less lonely. You can be in a room full of people and still feel lonely. So then we started talking about stigma and like why people don't talk about, my mom is going through this or I'm struggling with this, and it's shame. So then how do we limit the shame, or how do we minimize some of the shame that comes with saying, yeah, I have a substance use disorder, or I'm struggling with mental health, or we're not doing well financially. And so we talked about a few things. One was using religious leaders as influencers to get the message out that mental health struggles should not be a point of stigma, should not be a point of contention. We should openly and freely talk about these things. And even using religious leaders as influencers when it comes to like vaccines and certain scientific and health-related things that have a lot of misinformation around them. We talked about education around, different topics so that people feel informed and empowered. We also talked about the trust table and like the power of one-on-one conversations, because someone might not feel comfortable speaking about certain things in a group setting, but maybe if they had a situation where it was them and someone else and it was kind of, a closed room and you could talk about it and kind of leave things on the table. We also talked about informal networks of support. Chaltu was saying there's someone in her neighborhood who moved in and decided, hey, I'm going to invite all of my neighbors over and we're just going to talk, and from that it's been a source of support. So when neighbors and when people in community want to organize, how do we leave it so it has space to be what it needs to be, but it also has the formal support, the financial backing, and then we talked about physical space and sometimes just not wanting to necessarily go to an event, but also not wanting to sit in your house. And so what does it look like in neighborhoods to be vibrant? Is there a bench where people, can sit at and just kind of take in their space when someone can maybe sit with them and they talk? And are there, opportunities for people to just gather for the sake of gathering, not because they're going to an event, not because of anything other than I just want to be outside of my home, I want to be in my community. And community forums, the need for continued dedicated spaces to talk about the hard stuff. And then the hope is by having informal networks of support, by having physical spaces that are conducive to community, those conversations happen and continue to happen outside of, we have this monthly meeting where we'll talk about mental health, or we have this monthly meeting where we talk about substance use.
So my name is Jamal, and myself, and please remember your name, Gabrieli Alazar. We took on recognize and foster healthy relationships, and we just really made three important points with respect to that. And I think we all shared similar experiences within the community as far as how we came to these 3 points. First and foremost, one being how important personal connection is to everyone in the community. If you come across a client or neighbor, whatever have you, it kind of ties into, I think, what everybody's already said so far. Just being on a first name basis. Don't look at the individual as a client or you trying to get whatever message that you're getting out to the community, but actually make a personal connection, like, hey, what's your name? Fadumo, Ahmed, so on and so forth. So the next time you run into this individual, hopefully she or he remembers your name and you remember theirs. So that personal connection, we think, is a must in recognizing and fostering a healthy relationship. Second is recognizing the difference in connecting with individuals in the community. Different age groups, someone who was born in a different country who came here rather late, and is still, somewhat adjusting to the society norms here and the way the society functions, is going to have a different reaction to you as opposed to a younger kid who was born here or pretty much raised here. So recognizing the age gap and connecting with people. That's our second point. And then also, I don't know if anyone else discussed this, but when the COVID lockdown, that as a society, I don't care what culture, what race you are, what age group, we all had a shock. I think it was called a crisis fatigue that we all went through. It was the murder of George Floyd, then COVID. It's like back to back to back to back to back things that we all felt collectively. I don't care what walk of life you come from. So reconnecting with people after that and helping them come out of their shell. I think I shared a personal story where I was home alone in a house. My family was in a different state. I was hoping that they would move in before, COVID hit. So I found myself 4 months in living in a new home with nobody there, and no way to travel. So it took me like 45 days to get outside of my house during COVID just to get some fresh air. So you can imagine how that could affect an older person, a younger person, somebody who's, abusing substance or has mental health issues, whatever the case may be. I think we should be a little bit more sensitive and aware of that up front when we're talking to individuals. Like, no matter what they're dealing with or what they're not dealing with, we all know that we went through COVID together. So that's another way of recognizing and fostering a healthy relationship.
How beautifully succinct. So we're coming up on the end of this first cycle together. I think what we're proposing is that we could at least get together in a month Right? Well, that is something that is, as this team with Pillsbury, that we can say, let's come together again. Having conversations with someone who's been at these meetings before about how to get continued funding, because certainly in that we talked about how do we respect people's time, how do we support the work. So as a one avenue that we will be pursuing is how to get some continued funding. All of us have jobs. All of us have other things to do. So as an invitation between now and next month's meeting, who has something that they want to say, I want to work on this? Who wants to work on it with me?
Yeah, I think one thing I would like to work with myself, I have to start with myself, right? So with Nora and my team, how to sustain this initiative where we are fostering a coalition between many diverse different providers in metro area of Minneapolis, and how really we will work on resource, to sustain this body of work. Like we said, the current resource we have will be ending tomorrow by end of this month, May. And we have to look for other resource or alternative to sustain this work. And I'll work on that. And like I said on our small group discussion, and maybe with some of you, it's not about really the resource, This is just something we have to give back for the community, as we say in so many occasions and so many events. How really we continue to share, our experience, to share our time, and to just come together and share those different perspectives we have, or we just, acquiring from communities we closely work with. And just, sustain this work and duplicate this work. We have been working this around Cedar Riverside, particularly focusing East African immigrant population. But we said, even the East African we are targeting, they are not living in one or two neighborhoods. They live across different neighborhoods in the metro area or in Minnesota. And also there is the same or different communities with the same issue, or with different levels of the same issue. So how people like us, other providers, can, come to our meetings and just, understand the work we are doing and just do this work in their own way, in a holistic approach, knowing those targeted individuals or community, and, continue or expanding this work. I think to do so, I know I'm just talking a little bit than you expected, but we'll work on the resource or fundraising for this work, and also on, just meeting with Nora and just, prioritizing these all talking points and prioritizing them, and just, calling you guys between now and end of next month, or maybe mid of July. So, I think that is my thinking behind this, so thank you.
I guess I'll add on to two things as well. I definitely do want to be able to look forward to the next month, or next time that you guys do have another table of wonderful individuals who are like-minded and trying to bring about change, like real change. I'm going to commit to make sure that I come, and hopefully we can capitalize on the ideas that have been presented today.
I would like to help start building a directory. Who's here, what organizations do we represent, but also who's the person we can connect to, and if there's something specific culturally or demographically that we offer, I'm a safe space to come to talk about this, or if you want something, so to sort of make visible what may be on our websites or whatever. We might have pretty language, but how do we say, you could come to us for this. And I want to think more. I heard a lot about trusted messengers and faith leaders. How do we expand the group in that way? And one thing that I'll ask too is, I was actually talking to our wonderful videographer here about when I've worked in schools, there are people like the bus drivers who see into people's lives in ways that no one else does. So who are also the people that we haven't thought to invite yet, but play really special roles? And how could we think about inviting them into the circle? So those are two things I'll be thinking about, is inviting you all to participate in a directory and thinking about who else.
Yeah, I think I forgot to say, Abdi, we are hiring one position, someone who really work with us as a program manager for substance use disorder. Hopefully, when we'll come next time, we'll have that person, and I will come with that too. So, yeah.
I'll commit to invite more people, more of my colleagues, and the people who will bring valuable information to this coalition, and also commit to share, if everyone is open to, with the resources, whether it's RFBs or grant opportunities that relate to this topic with the group.
All right, well, I put you on the spot, but don't believe me, please send out a follow-up email. And there will be invitations to share information, to say who else should we invite, to say who has something that you didn't commit to in the meeting, but you actually, now that you've thought about it, it's something you would like. And for all of you to ask for help from each other, to offer something or to ask for help. So we'll send up that follow-up in the next week. And we'll also set a time for next meeting date. And we might ask, if we were to have a group double this size, what space might work for that? So we'll follow up with some questions and some ideas. So until then, I think the last thing we need is maybe a round of applause and a picture, because we always take a group photo. So.